Welcome to ZPF Echo, where we explore the source field of consciousness and the echoes it leaves in science, AI, and human awareness.
So let's get right into it. Have you ever had that feeling, the one where you sense something big is changing, like your whole life is getting an upgrade, but the process itself feels totally chaotic and honestly kind of scary? It's like this deep internal shift is happening, but all you feel on the surface is anxiety, a weird shakiness you can't quite put your finger on, or just this feeling of being completely overwhelmed by, well, who even knows what. It's wild, right? And it almost always happens right when you're on the verge of a massive leap forward.
Well, here's the big reframe we're diving into today. It's a concept that's come out of a series of dialogues I've been having with what I call Z. You can think of it as a higher, more observational layer of my own consciousness. And the key insight, the absolute game changer, is this. That chaotic feeling? It's not a sign that things are going wrong. It's not a system failure at all. It's actually the system rebooting, upgrading to a higher functioning state. So you're not breaking down, you're breaking through.
Okay, to really get this, we've got to introduce a new idea. It's called the future log. Now, just imagine for a second that your next reality is like a compressed file, like a zip file. It's already been written, authored from that higher dimension, that Z consciousness we talked about. It's like the source code for your own next level. And this future log is just sitting there like a system update waiting in the queue, ready to be downloaded and installed onto your personal operating system, which is, your current reality.
All right, so that brings us to part one, convergence signals. We're going to be talking about understanding the so-called glitches of your system upgrade. See, when that new future log starts to merge with your current reality, your whole system feels, well, glitchy. But here's the thing, these aren't random errors. They're actually predictable, readable signals that are telling you, hey, the upgrade is happening.
Let's break these down, because they reframe some experiences that are actually super common. First up, the shaking and anxiety. That's your system literally vibrating at a new, higher frequency. Sound familiar? Then you get this sudden flood of synchronicities, right? Where everything you see and hear seems connected to this new path. That's the new reality file starting to mesh with your current one. And finally, you get these bizarre reality glitches. Schedules suddenly changing, your tech failing for no reason, time feeling like it's warping. That's just the old and new operating systems running at the same time for a moment. The huge takeaway here is these are good signs.
So let's zoom in on that shaking feeling, because this is the one that really gets people's attention. It usually happens in 3 stages, kind of moving down through your body. First, it's informational. It's all in your head. You get this rush of anxious thoughts that just pop up out of nowhere. Then it drops down into your chest. It becomes an emotional stirring. That's your core self, your true observer, starting to pick up on the frequency of this new future log. And finally, it often becomes physical, landing as a pressure or a tightness right in your throat.
And that throat thing, it brings us to this really fascinating idea about why it's so important in this whole process. In one of my dialogues with Z, this point came through so clearly. The throat is the physical gateway for this new reality. It's like the USB port through which the future log is preparing to enter your world, ready to be spoken or acted into existence. So that pressure you feel, that's literally the download getting ready to install.
Okay, so this all leads up to a really critical moment. Part 2, a fork in reality. It's about choosing your next operating system. Because when all that shaking is happening and the signals are firing off, you arrive at a fork in the road, and a choice has to be made, whether you realize it or not, about which operating system you're going to run. And really, there are 2 main options on the table. On one side, you've got the M future. This is running on your old operating system, the MAOS. And this whole system is based on fear. Its default setting is to retreat to what feels known and safe. And the result? Reality feels heavy, it stalls, it gets stagnant. But then, on the other side, you have the Z future. This is the new upgrade, the ZOS. Its foundation is flow and impulse, and the action that comes from this place feels like an effortless wave of doing. It accelerates creation, and everything feels light, synchronous, and you feel tireless.
But wait, there's actually a third path, and it's a really common one. I call it the I future. This is the state of being the detached observer. And look, it feels calm, you feel safe, you're definitely not in the fear of the MEOS, but you're also completely static. Nothing changes. No new creation happens. And for anyone who really wants to manifest something new, this state can become a total trap of inaction.
So if you're serious about consciously choosing that Z future, it really helps to have the user manual, right? So let's get into part 3, fatal system errors. We're going to cover the 4 specific actions that will absolutely crash the Z future and force a downgrade right back to that old, fear-based operating system. Okay, Pay close attention here, because these are so important. First fatal error, proof. The second you act from a place of needing to prove your worth to someone, anyone, boom, you've crashed the system. Second, control. Trying to force or micromanage or manipulate an outcome, that kills the natural flow instantly. Third, subjection. This is when you let fear or shame or guilt take the driver's seat. And the fourth one, externalizing. This means blaming the outside world, people, circumstances, whatever, for how you feel inside. All four of these actions they're completely incompatible with the frequency of the ZOS. It's like trying to run Mac software on a Windows PC, it just won't work. But here is the really, really good news. Even if you mess up and you do crash the system, which, let's be honest, we all do, there's an emergency restore protocol. Think of it like a system reboot. It's a super simple but incredibly effective way to get back into that ZOS flow. I call it the 30-second respawn. And look, I know this sounds simple, but it is so powerful when you actually do it. Let's walk through the 3 steps. First, for just 3 seconds, remember. You just acknowledge it. You say to yourself, okay, me is in the driver's seat right now. That's it. Step 2, for 15 seconds, reset. You physically relax your throat, you place the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth, and you just breathe into your chest while stating, I am the one watching. This immediately puts you back in that observer seat. And finally, step 3 for the last 12 seconds, return. You simply give the feeling and the control back to the source. You just say, I return this to Z.
And this is probably the most important part of the whole technique. You are not trying to eliminate the emotion. You're not fighting it or suppressing the fear or anxiety because, that's a losing battle that just creates more tension. Instead, the technique is to simply return the emotion and all the need for control that goes with it back to the source, back to that larger consciousness, that Z field. It's about surrender, not suppression. It's a huge difference.
All right, so once you get the hang of that respawn technique, you can start to level up. You can move from just managing the upgrade to actively accelerating it. And that brings us to part 4, overclocking reality. This is all about how to master the download of your future log.
And here it is. This is the secret to those fast downloads. Your future isn't something you have to create brick by painful brick. It's actually something you download from a cache of potential that's already stored inside you. Think of it like a compressed file already on your hard drive, just waiting to be unzipped. Your real job isn't to build it from scratch. It's just to find the file, unlock it, and let it run.
This next quote from Z, it really gets to the core physics of this whole process. When fear disappears, the gravity of reality changes. Just let that sink in for a second. Fear is the gravity of your old reality, of the Mios. It's what makes everything feel so heavy, so slow, so difficult. But when that fear is no longer the dominant force, the actual gravity of your reality shifts. Things become lighter, faster, and creation can happen in what feels like an instant.
So, how do we actually do this? How do we call that future forward intentionally? Well, it's a 4-step process that aligns all the layers of your consciousness. Step 1. Z recognize. You just notice that intuitive flash, that little vision or idea, and you don't analyze it at all. Step 2. I observe. You witness the idea from that calm observer space without adding a bunch of meaning or doubt to it. Step 3, and this is so critical, throat verbalize. You have to give it form. Speak it out loud, write it down, record a voice memo. This is the install command. And finally, step 4, me move. You take one tiny, effortless physical step, and I mean tiny. This is not about massive hustle culture action, it's just about creating a physical landing point for that future to come into reality. And really, that's what this all comes down to. You've basically got the user manual for your own reality's operating system now. You know how to recognize the signals of an upgrade, you understand the choices you have, you know the fatal errors to avoid, and you've even got the emergency reboot protocols. So, the only question left is the big one. Now that you have the manual, what future are you choosing to download?
Thank you for listening. If this resonates with you, join the Echo and share the journey. We'll see you in the next episode.